What is cognitive psychology? Cognitive psychology is a branch of psychology that focuses on understanding how people think, process information, and make decisions. It involves studying mental processes such as attention, perception, memory, language, problem solving, and decision making. One of the fundamental concepts in cognitive psychology is information processing. According to this theory, the brain receives, processes, stores, and retrieves information from the environment. This process is likened to a computer, where information is inputted, processed, and outputted. Another concept in cognitive psychology is mental representation, which refers to the internal coding and storage of information in the brain. For example, when we see a red apple, we form a mental representation of that apple, which includes its color, shape, texture, and taste. This mental representation allows us to recognize the apple and differentiate it from other fruits. Cognitive psychology can be applied to various domains, including education, business, and healthcare. Here are some examples. 1. Perception. Cognitive psychologists study how we perceive and interpret sensory information from the environment. For example, they investigate how we recognize faces, objects, and shapes. One area of perception that cognitive psychologists study is visual perception. They investigate how the brain processes visual information, such as color, shape, and motion. For example, they have discovered that our perception of color is influenced by the context in which we view it, and that our brain can fill in missing information to create a complete visual scene. 2. Attention. Cognitive psychologists investigate how attention works and how it affects perception, memory, and decision-making. For example, they explore how we filter out irrelevant information and focus on important stimuli. Cognitive psychologists study attention to understand how we focus on important information and filter out distractions. They have discovered that attention can be divided between different tasks, and that our ability to multitask is limited. They also investigate how attention changes over time, such as when we become fatigued or bored. 3. Memory. Cognitive psychologists examine how we encode, store, and retrieve information in our memory. They investigate different types of memory, such as short-term memory, long-term memory, and working memory. Memory is a complex cognitive process that cognitive psychologists have studied extensively. They have identified different types of memory, such as declarative memory, memory for facts, and procedural memory, memory for skills. They have also discovered that memory can be affected by factors such as emotion, context, and motivation. 4. Language. Cognitive psychologists study how we acquire and use language to communicate with others. They investigate the cognitive processes involved in language production, comprehension, and learning. Language is a fundamental aspect of human cognition, and cognitive psychologists investigate how we use and understand language. They study the process of language acquisition in children, as well as language processing in adults. For example, they have discovered that the brain processes different aspects of language, such as grammar and meaning, in different areas. 5. Problem solving. Cognitive psychologists explore how we solve problems, make decisions, and reason through complex situations. They investigate the cognitive strategies people use to find solutions to problems. Cognitive psychologists study problem solving to understand how we approach complex tasks and find solutions. They investigate the cognitive strategies we use, such as trial and error, algorithmic, and heuristic approaches. They have also identified factors that can influence problem solving, such as expertise and creativity. 6. Decision-making. Cognitive psychologists study how we make decisions in different contexts, such as risk-taking, moral judgments, and consumer behavior. They investigate the cognitive processes involved in decision-making, such as weighing pros and cons and evaluating alternatives. Decision-making is a complex cognitive process that cognitive psychologists investigate. They study how we weigh different options, evaluate risks and rewards, and make choices. For example, they have discovered that our decision-making can be influenced by factors such as emotions, social norms, and cognitive biases. 7. Reasoning. Cognitive psychologists examine how we use reasoning to draw conclusions and make inferences. They investigate different types of reasoning, such as deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, and analogical reasoning. Reasoning is the process of drawing conclusions from available information, and cognitive psychologists study how we do this. They investigate different types of reasoning, such as deductive and inductive reasoning. They have also identified factors that can influence reasoning, such as prior knowledge and context. 8. Perception-action coupling. Cognitive psychologists investigate how our perception and action systems are tightly coupled. Cognitive psychologists investigate how perception and action are linked in the brain. They study how we use visual information to guide our movements, and how our movements can influence our perception. For example, they have discovered that our perception of time can be affected by the speed at which we move. 9. Cognitive development. Cognitive psychologists study how cognitive processes develop over the lifespan, from infancy to old age. They investigate different stages of cognitive development, such as Piaget's stages of cognitive development. They investigate how cognitive abilities such as attention, memory, and problem-solving change over time. For example, they have discovered that children's ability to reason and solve problems improves with age and experience. 10. Neuropsychology. Cognitive psychologists collaborate with neuroscientists to investigate the neural basis of cognitive processes. They use techniques such as brain imaging and lesion studies to identify brain regions involved in different cognitive processes. Neuropsychology is the study of the relationship between the brain and cognitive processes. Cognitive psychologists work with neuroscientists to investigate how brain damage or dysfunction can affect cognition. For example, they have discovered that damage to specific areas of the brain can cause specific cognitive deficits, such as difficulty with language or spatial awareness. In conclusion, cognitive psychology provides a framework for understanding the mental processes involved in perception, memory, attention, language, and problem solving. By studying these processes, researchers can develop theories and models that help explain human cognition, behavior, and decision making. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button.